A surf fisherman walks onto a crowded beach where 40 people have been casting for 3 hours with maybe 5 fish caught total between all of them. He doesn't even set up his rod immediately. Instead, he walks to the waterline and tosses 3 small mesh bags into the surf about 20 feet apart from each other. Then he sits down, assembles his rod slowly, rigs his line, and waits. 15 minutes after those bags hit the water, the surf directly in front of them starts boiling with feeding activity. Bait fish are scattering, birds are diving, and every rod in that section suddenly has a fish on. The fisherman casts once, lands a 4-pound pompano in under 2 minutes, rebaits, casts again. Another fish immediately. By the time he's caught his 6th fish in 35 minutes, the other anglers have moved their setups closer to his position, trying to figure out what's different about that 50-foot stretch of beach that wasn't producing anything an hour ago. What those bags contain is something commercial fishermen have used for decades to concentrate fish in specific zones for efficient netting. But recreational anglers were never taught about it because tackle shops can't sell it profitably, and it works so well that guides would lose clients who realized they could create their own productive spots instead of paying for someone else's knowledge. The bags contain a mixture that costs less than $2 to make, lasts indefinitely when stored dry, and creates feeding zones on command in any saltwater or freshwater environment where fish compete for food sources. I'm going to show you exactly what's in those bags, how to make them, and why the fishing industry has known about this technique since at least the 1960s, but never developed consumer products around it because the economics don't work. When something this cheap and effective eliminates the need for expensive attractants and constant location scouting. Hit subscribe before I break this down because this channel exists to share knowledge from commercial fishing operations that recreational fishing culture buried under product marketing. And every week, we're recovering techniques that work better and cost less than anything tackle shops want selling you. The mesh bags contain a mixture of 3 ingredients that create a feeding stimulus through both chemical and visual mechanisms simultaneously. Start with plain rolled oats, the bulk container from any grocery store for about $3 that will make 40 bags. Add powdered milk, the instant variety in the baking aisle for about $4 per container that will also make 40 bags. Mix these 2 dry ingredients together at a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 parts oats to 1 part powdered milk. Now, add ground fish pellets, the kind sold for aquarium fish or farm ponds, about $5 for enough to make 40 bags. The ground pellets provide the protein signature, while the oats and milk provide bulk carrier and extended dispersal. Mix everything thoroughly until you have a uniform brown powder. Take small mesh bags, the kind used for produce or sold as organza gift bags, and fill each one with approximately 2 tablespoons of the mixture. Tie them closed and store them in a sealed container where they'll stay effective indefinitely because all the ingredients are shelf-stable when kept dry. At the water, take 3 to 5 bags depending on how large an area you want to activate. Wade or walk to your fishing position and drop the bags in a rough line parallel to shore about 15 to 20 feet out from where you'll be casting. In surf, the bags will settle into depressions or behind sandbars. In calm water, they'll sink to the bottom and stay there. Now comes the critical waiting period that most people skip and then blame the technique when it doesn't work instantly. Wait at least 15 minutes, preferably 20, before you start casting to that zone. During this waiting period, the bags are absorbing water and beginning to release the mixture through the mesh. The oats swell and break apart, creating a visual cloud. The powdered milk dissolves and creates a milky dispersion. The fish pellets release amino acids and oils. All three components work together to create both a visual attractant and a chemical attractant that draws fish from considerable distances and holds them in the zone while they search for the food source they're detecting. Let me explain the biology that makes this work and why it operates on principles that expensive commercial attractants deliberately avoid. When bait fish feed on plankton or small organisms near bottom, they create visible disturbances in the water that predators watch for as indicators of feeding activity. The oats in these bags create visual disturbances that mimic bait fish feeding activity, which draws predators to investigate even before they've detected the chemical attractants. This visual component is why the technique works in clear water, where fish can see the cloud forming. The powdered milk creates turbidity that fish associate with disturbed sediment, which in nature indicates organisms being exposed or prey being chased. It's a secondary visual signal that reinforces the feeding activity interpretation. The fish pellets provide the chemical component that delivers the actual feeding stimulus through amino acids and fatty acids that predatory fish evolved to detect as food availability. But here's the key difference between this mixture and commercial attractants. Commercial products are designed to create immediate strong signals that disperse quickly, forcing you to reapply frequently. That drives repeat purchases. This mixture is designed to create moderate signals that persist over extended periods, typically 45 minutes to an hour per bag, which means you set it once and fish productively for an hour without reapplication. Commercial fishermen can't afford to waste time constantly refreshing attractants, so they develop delivery systems that work once and last long enough to run multiple net sets. You're benefiting from that same efficiency-driven logic. The mesh bag carrier is critical because it meters the release rate of all three components. If you just dump the mixture loose into water, it would disperse too fast and create a brief, intense signal that dissipates before fish have time to locate and concentrate in the zone. The mesh bag forces slow, consistent release that builds concentration over the first 15 minutes and maintains it over the next 45 minutes. That timing matches predator feeding behavior perfectly because fish that detect the initial signal need 10 to 15 minutes to travel to the source and begin searching. And once they arrive, you want the signal persisting long enough to keep them in the area while you're actively fishing. Here's where the suppression of this technique transitions from industry disinterest into active prevention of knowledge spread. In the 1980s, several surf fishing clubs along the Gulf Coast began using variations of this bag technique after members who worked in commercial fishing shared it within their clubs. The results were dramatic enough that club members started dominating local tournaments and peer competitions. Other anglers noticed that winning anglers were deploying bags before fishing, and when questioned, several club members shared the technique thinking it was common knowledge. Within 2 years, enough recreational anglers were using bag techniques that bait shops started receiving requests for pre-made bags or the mixture ingredients. The shops contacted tackle distributors asking if products existed. Distributors contacted manufacturers asking if they could produce something. Manufacturers did feasibility studies and determined that bag delivery systems for attractant mixtures couldn't hit the price points and margins that tackle retail requires. The raw ingredients are too cheap. The labor to fill bags doesn't scale efficiently. The shelf space required for bulky mesh bags doesn't justify the low margin per unit. After determining they couldn't productize it profitably, several manufacturers contacted fishing organizations and tournament series to suggest rule changes that would limit or ban pre-baiting techniques that created unfair advantages for anglers who happened to know about them. The tournaments responded by implementing rules against deploying anything in the water before official competition start times, effectively banning bag techniques in competitive settings without explicitly naming them. This kept the technique from spreading through tournament culture where winning anglers would have been forced to explain their methods publicly. Bait shops that initially asked about the products quietly stopped discussing it because manufacturers made clear there would be no products developed, and shops benefit more from selling expensive attractants to anglers who don't know about bag techniques than from educating customers about alternatives that cost pennies. This suppression isn't documented in published sources because nobody sent memos saying, "Suppress the bag technique." It happened through economic incentives, where every participant in the commercial system benefits from recreational anglers not learning about methods that eliminate product dependencies. Subscribe to this channel because the knowledge that died in commercial fishing clubs when manufacturers decided it wasn't profitable is exactly what we're resurrecting and sharing with anglers who care more about results than supporting retail business models.